You're on mute, sir.
I wonder if there's a way we can ask to unmute. Is that possible? You can say hello.
Currently self-muted, so I can't mute or unmute.
Oh, that's all good. Should be good to say hello.
Yeah.
Now, Nath has joined. Hello, Nath.
Yeah, hello. Afternoon from this side, Cassius. Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you too, dude. Very happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Need to learn from you today.
You're in the right
Cool.
place to learn for sure.
Yeah.
Cassius.
Hey, Suleiman.
Looking forward to your session today. I'm really happy.
Nice. What I'll probably do is I'll probably kick it off in a minute. I'll just see if anyone else turns up, and if not, what I plan to do, at least in this session, is I plan to keep it pretty kind of like light because it's the first one, and I kind of want to set the scene for everything else going forwards. And I'll give you guys loads of time to ask questions and share your thoughts at the end as well. It's going to be pretty practical going forwards. So this one is probably the only example of a session that isn't hyper practical, but there is some takeaways and some self-studying, and there will be every week, but I'll kind of run through that when we get started. But it's 5 past now, so I can kind of kick everything off. Tristan, in terms of recording, what button do I have to press to record?
I'm already recording.
Oh, sweet. Cool. Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll share my screen. Oh, this is fun. I've never actually given Discord permission, so it might kick me out for a second. Let me... Okay, cool. I will return. Give me 2 seconds.
Hey, Maddie.
Right.
بس اسوي لك الكهرباء بالضبط اهم شيء
Just
هي
mute,
هاي
Maddie.
البقيه زنيت ابقي لك فراغ متر
Oh,
و5
boy.
سم
I'll just click mute on Maddie, because otherwise
I've got him.
no one's going to hear anything. Cool. Right, I should be able to share my screen now. Screen, entire screen. Yeah, let's do that. That would be fun. Go live. Sweet. So everyone should be able to see my screen now. So I'll just grab up the prezzo I made for this.
Make sure to click watch stream, guys. If you can't see that button, if you click on Cassius on the left hand, hover over Cassius on the left hand side, it should say watch stream.
Cool. Sweet. So essentially, this is a product forum. I don't need to say too much about this. What I probably will say, just to kind of kick things off, is I'll give a little intro on why you should trust me and some of the things that I say. Now, I don't think you should ever trust anyone wholeheartedly on what they say unless you really understand what they're talking about, or you can ask them enough questions that you feel comfortable that they know the answer, or at least they're in the right direction. But, I've raised 10 million plus in the space and been founders of ventures that have done so. I've worked with Bumble, Facebook, Google, and a lot of other fast growth companies as product designer, product manager, kind of like a lot of things to do with product. I've also made a lot of businesses that have sucked and have really failed. So I've had the classic, you have to start your own shitty startup and, make a load of bad decisions before you know what good ones are. Some of the ventures I've worked on are now valued at over $100 million. And, some of the projects I've worked on for Bumble and Google, etc., are easily contributing at least $1 billion of market cap to their valuation. And I've spent the last 10 years on this, and I'm very passionate about attempting to teach people how I think and what I think in a simple way. So sometimes it might seem like things are oversimplified, and if that's the case for you, please ask questions, and I'll tell you why I've done it in a certain way or why I've kind of framed it that way to make life a little bit easier. So what is product? I think this is probably the best definition to give you a broad range and a broad understanding of what everything is. So product is a way to think about problems and the process to creating solutions for those problems. People will give you a million different definitions for it. I think that captures everything that product is and should be. Now, what we try to do in product is make really complicated things smaller so you can measure and manage the solution, or at least the thing that you create, and continue to make it better. So I'll give you some examples of products because I'm pretty sure this is obvious for most people, but I just want it to, I want to give you a few kind of like high level examples. So Google is in itself a product. It solves a problem for people. Obviously, what that does is search. So you could ask Google anything, and people who interact with Google on a daily basis, I'm very familiar with this. So I'm not going to do anything crazy. I will, however, feel lucky right now, and I'm in Chicago. But that's what Google is one example of a product. So is Airbnb. Airbnb is in itself a product with many different components. It solves a problem for people looking to travel. It helps people book things, kind of like make money. It unlocks a lot of very interesting things in terms of equity. Nouns DAO is a Web3 product that allows you to essentially join the DAO community, which you do by buying these little things called nouns. So, that one's a cat, and there's various different ones. That's the product too. Peloton is also a product, blends physical and digital services together. So you can buy a bike, shoes, you name it. Product Hunt is a meta product. So it's a product that shows you other products. And then this little soup shop here, again, is a product. It sells physical products. It does so through a digital medium. So what I'm really trying to get across with this is that pretty much anything that you create should end up being a product if it solves a problem for someone. And product thinking and the art of product really focuses on that idea. So it's very difficult for someone to say something is or isn't a product as long as it solves a problem for someone somewhere. It's not art, for example. Art doesn't necessarily have to solve a problem. Product technically does. So that's how I tend to look at product and the world in general. So while most people might say, okay, product is primarily digital, it's like, no, it's very much physical. It's very much a combination of the two. And as long as it solves something for someone somewhere, then there's a good chance that it is in fact a product. So, I'm also going to quickly talk about some roles in product to give you some context on what I'm trying to get across to you guys over the next few weeks. So first of all, it's like, what you tend to see in product is people will be a product designer. And that really means that you turn ideas into artifacts. So, things that are physical or digital. So if I give you a quick example in Figma, a product designer will be the person that creates like compositions that look like this. So if I've just got loads of these to show you, that was my specialty as a product designer. So for example, like Pledge's website, this is technically part of the Pledge's product. I can also show you the ones that we did for Mora. Let's just grab something here. So anyone who works in product as a product designer will tend to create these visual artifacts that developers can build and then people can interact with within the team. So that's what a product designer does. A product marketer is someone, or product growth, whatever, is someone who finds who and how to sell the product with a focus on growth. And what I mean by that is, as a product marketer, you're primarily focused on telling the story. And what that tends to lead to is it tends to doing a lot of work like this that involves dealing with metrics, figuring out what's going on in sort of like workflows that you put together, how you get customers into the product, how you grow the product. So if you do a lot of work with product marketing, you spend more time in spreadsheets and things that might look like this. Now, this is super complicated. I'm not expecting anyone to understand what the hell is going on here. But the idea really is just to be able to see that, as you get better and better at product marketing, you might find yourself looking at data and things like this. Then we equally have, go back to this, we equally have user research, which is basically a way of sort of like talking to customers and users and then understanding how they think and feel. So here's an example of a table that we put together with Mora, where we did a lot of interviews with patients. We have things like memorable quotes, insights from the calls, opportunities, and then you take all of this stuff and you would synthesize it into like high-level insights that the team can operate on. And you probably then try and classify these insights to help you understand how things are changing in between your initial assumptions and your post assumptions. So this is all really high level, and I'm not going into any of this in detail on purpose. And the reason I'm not going into detail on this is because what I really want to try and cover here in the product forum is basically the idea of product management. And so a product manager is essentially a generalist that has knowledge in all of these functions. So all of the stuff that I've shown you, I'm by no means a specialist at, but I am a quite good generalist at understanding how all of these things work, how they fit together, and how that can be used to sort of like build products, whether that's from 0 to 1. And when someone says 0 to 1, they mean basically getting your first 10, 100,000 users to, let's say, anything from 1 and above, which could be a growing company, it could be Google, could be Facebook, it could be a number of things in between. And then obviously we have developers. I won't go too much into that. I'm not non-technical by any stretch. You know, I'm a wizard with JavaScript if you put me in the right situation. But I still think that what developers do is magic. And so if you can be a strong developer with a strong background in product, it's like, you know, the world is kind of your oyster as far as I'm concerned with building and creating new things. So some important advice that I'm trying to get across in the product forum is, you know, be a generalist and let specialization find you. We're going to do a lot of very general things here. You know, many roles in product are product something manager, and the word in the middle is specialization. But if you become good at each of these small functions, then you can really follow where your interests or talents lie in the product space. So if you really enjoy marketing, you could be a product marketer or product marketing manager. If you enjoy, you know, product research, you could kind of be, you know, product experience manager. Anything that a company puts in the middle is their way of saying we want someone who's biased towards this thing. And I'd say become a really good generalist first, because then you can choose how you bias, and it's not even necessary most of the time. So really, really high level stuff, and what I'm going to try and get across to you guys over the next few weeks is, you know, product contains hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are kind of the things that you actually need to be able to do, like to show people, and soft skills are the way that you interact with the world. So the hard skills that you need to have at a high level for product is to understand problems, be able to create assumptions. So I think this because of this, and if we do this, this will happen. And then run experiments to update those assumptions, execute on your solutions, and basically have the good conviction to keep repeating. So this process here, which I visualize a little bit later, will help you understand and see what the product process looks like. And in terms of soft skills, you need to be able to learn, make sense of things, you know, be good at synthesis. So take a load of ideas and try to make sense of those ideas in a new and novel way. Communication, this is probably the most important part of product, is being able to talk about how you think, understand what other people are saying, and then be able to create alignment around that. And emotional intelligence is probably the last one. So can you sit in a room and have a real conversation with someone? And can you also make sure that as you lose your temper or become frustrated, other people don't? And can you read a room and then make sure that you can get buy-in for the decisions you make? Emotional intelligence is also a big one, and it's kind of it's underneath all of these really. And you just train this by interacting with people and spending more time listening than you do talking. We can go into that and some of the soft skills in more detail, but I'm going to kind of keep it very high level and focused on like the actual execution of things as we go forward. So this diagram here is what they call the double diamond. And the double diamond is a really good way to look at how the product process works. So you essentially have the problem space at the bottom and the solution space on the other side. And the idea here is that you essentially identify a problem, and then you start to move through these diamonds. And as you move through these diamonds, you start to go from challenge to definition, so you understand what the problem is, and then from problem to solution. And then, as you can see, this is sort of like a process. It never stops. It keeps moving, and it's perpetual. Now, to really simplify this is the job of anyone that works in product. And whether you're in a small startup, a big company, or you're starting your own venture from scratch, this process here will happen time and time and time again, and it will just happen at different levels depending on where you're at. So you will always find problems. You'll then have to find out how to define what the solution looks like. You'll then spend some time designing the solution. You'll then deliver the solution. And when you deliver the solution, you'll discover more problems, which will help you define more solutions, and you'll rinse and repeat forever. What you probably notice is that as you create things that people like and things that are growing, you will find that while you'll discover more problems, the problems will be loads more refined. So it will be less broad and less vague and much more kind of like pinpoint and granular. So, you know, important advice, product is a process, it's never done. So your goal really is to find what's good, make it and do things that make that thing better. And one of the things to realize here is that most companies only do one or two things really well. If we come back to some of the examples we showed earlier, if we come back to Airbnb, Airbnb only really does one thing really well, and that's allow people to rent and share their properties on the internet so that they can make some passive income. Peloton only does one thing really well, and that's do at-home workouts with their bike or their gear. Product Hunt only does one thing really well, and that's allow you to find new and upcoming products. Apple only does one thing really well, and actually Apple is an exception. Apple does two things really well. It creates really good portable personal computing devices, and it builds good software on top of that. But this is why this is a $3 trillion company, and companies like Peloton are only kind of, a few hundred million, because to get to the point where you have the privilege of doing more than one thing really well takes a long time and requires a lot of effort. Most people don't realize, but Apple's been going for, I think 50 plus years at this point, at least, or 40 plus years. So that tends to be a big important learning here, is that most companies only do one or two things really well. So this forum, over the next 6 weeks, we're really going to focus on the hardest part of this journey, which is product market fit. Now, any reasonable sized company that you join will probably have product market fit. And product market fit really means that when you do things, people want that thing, and they want your company to still be around because it does that thing really well for them. And they're willing to pay for it, or give you their time, or ultimately fight for it to still exist. So some companies, it's really obvious that they have product market fit, like Peloton. People pay. Wikipedia is another good example of a company that has product market fit, because there are people that spend all of their time looking after all of these articles so they can remain on the internet. People do not want Wikipedia to die. Wikipedia is non-profit, so it begs for donations. But if anyone ever said Wikipedia was going down, someone would either buy it or make sure that it could stay alive. Same thing with Apple. And if you were to look at smaller companies that have product market fit, which would say, let's have a quick look here and give you an example. We could see that another good example of a company with product market fit is probably Obsidian. You might not have heard of Obsidian, but Obsidian is a company which allows you to create knowledge graphs, which are basically set ways of saying how your thoughts connect to each other. And the reason for Obsidian have product market fit is because there's a community of people that don't want it to die, and they're willing to pay for it. And it's not a big company by any stretch. Like if we have a look at their Twitter, you'll see it's relatively small, 70,000 followers. It makes it sound a lot bigger than it is, but it's not that big by any stretch. And what I'm trying to get across to you by showing you Obsidian, in contrast to all of the other companies, is that small products you've never heard of, another good example is Mailbrew, can find ways to survive and make lots of money and be viable businesses without being enterprise things. And that's just because they have product market fit. Mailbrew is another very simple example of this. Plenty of users love it, want it to keep around, and they pay good money to keep it there. So that's why I want to focus on product market fit, because I think it's the hardest part of this entire journey. And if you understand it, then you're going to be able to do basically anything in the product space. So, expectations is we'll do a seminar each Monday. In terms of time, we'll probably do it later in the day, because Tristan's mentioned to me that a load of you would prefer it to be later in the day, largely because we've done a poll and most people say later is better. So same day, but a different time. And I'm trying to put together around 2 to 5 hours of self-study each week. And depending on how that goes, I'm also happy to do a separate forum where there's no agenda, and people can just sit, ask me questions based on the work that we're setting, based on the things that we're discussing, where you guys can go backwards and forwards to challenge some of the ideas and to ultimately get better and better at the idea of product thinking. So this, I don't expect you guys to do anything with this now, but I'll post the slides into the product forum along with the recording. These are some great newsletters to sign up to, just so that you can sit and read around good product thinkers in the space. And more than that, get good sources of ideas. Now, I'd say with this stuff, you are welcome to, I would say, you're going to encounter a lot of things that to begin with are a little bit, let's say, counterintuitive. Like you'll be like, oh, what does this mean? I don't really get why this thing works. And that's fine. If any of that appears, post it within the product forum where we can discuss it and chat about sort of like why these things work or why they don't. And equally, use those gaps to kind of Google and figure out the things that you do and don't know right now, because that'll make your life much easier. So Reforge blog does a lot of simplified stuff, and Lenny Rachitsky, he was a head of product at Airbnb. he offers a load of interesting product insights. Some of them can be quite advanced, some of them can be a little bit more lower level, but any of the things he talks about, we can obviously discuss in the forum as well, which will help you guys learn. So here's essentially the kind of like self-study piece that I want you guys to go through this week. First one is super easy. It's just subscribe to all of those newsletters and get reading. What I would say is subscribe to the newsletters, and when they hit your inbox, read. But more than that, if you can kind of like create a habit of reading kind of like one blog post a day for maybe like the next 30 days, that would be really impactful for you. And if you do it for 30 days, there's a good chance that that habit will stick. What I really want you guys to look at is I really want you guys to basically watch this video on the 4 Fits by Brian Balfour. Now, Brian Balfour is, I think he's the co-founder of HubSpot. Let's have a look. Brian Balfour, HubSpot. Growth founder, CEO, Reforward, previously VP of Growth at HubSpot. So what he does is he shows what this kind of like 4 Fits canvas is. And it's very important that you guys learn this. And I'll tell you why. It's because what you're going to see if you learn this is you're going to see how each of those roles I described in product link together. And you're also going to need to understand the most important one of these roles, which is kind of product market fit. Because if you can do product market fit, like I said, understanding how to do product channel fit, channel model fit, model market fit, all of that stuff will begin to make more sense. And it'll also help you understand why it's really important to focus on product market fit versus any of the other fits first. Now, this kind of does change as you move through organizations and organization times, life cycles. But if you understand product market fit, I guarantee you the rest will be a piece of cake. So I want you to watch the videos on 4 Fits. And then what I want you to do is create a 1-pager in Notion, which explains the 4 Fits as simply as possible, as if you're going to educate someone else in your network on this. And this is really important because, and I've purposely kept this vague, so I've created said 1-pager, so no more than a page of words. Now, a page of words might be anything between 500 to 1,000 words. It's not going to be anything too crazy. It's going to be light. It's going to be full of bullet points. It's going to be really high level. But it should be self-explanatory so that if someone reads this, they understand what's going on. And the reason I want a 1-pager is because what you'll start to do in product is you're going to start to create a load of different things like briefs where, let's see if I can find something kicking around. You'll create some very simple briefs, which you will share with other people on your team. And the reason you'll do this is so that they can align with how you think and they can start to ultimately support the making and building of things. And even if you're working solo on building your own product or working with like one other individual, being able to write in a concise way, and it doesn't have to be very magical or well written. It just needs to be clear what you're attempting to say. That's a big part of this work because what people don't seem to realize at times is that if you can write clearly, you can think clearly. And those two things tend to go together. So patient portal, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else interesting I can show you guys here. Alpha 3.0, say product plan. Cool. This is just an example of kind of like a simple brief that we put together for people. This is a bit longer than a 1-pager, but it gives you the idea. Again, we built a business and we raised $6 million off of simple briefs like this. If you don't believe us, this is the memo that we sent across to investors, which is just a bunch of bullet points, and that raised $6 million for the company. So I really do believe that, clear, concise thinking makes a very big difference. And this is one way to sort of understand that. So you learn about the 4 Fits, you'll explain it as a 1-pager, and the idea is to make it so it's communicable to someone else, so they'll understand what's going on. And the bonus is if you have time, and when I say if you have time, I really mean you should have time. It would be amazing if you do this because you will progress very quickly, is can you apply the 4 Fits framework to a website called Noom.com? Now, the reason I've picked Noom.com is because I'm very familiar with Noom.com. And also, if you start to type in search queries around Noom, like Noom growth channel, you also start to learn that lots of people have talked about Noom. And it's very easy for you to start to do some research and to dig into how Noom grew and why it grew. You even have people like Lenny Rachitsky, the guy I told you to follow the newsletter of, that talks about how Noom has grown. And so it'll help you put all of that into context with the 4 Fits. And I also know Noom very well because we did a lot of research on Noom when we started our company. So that's kind of what I have planned for you guys this week. That's going to set the foundation for everything we do going forwards. If you guys work through this, it's going to be a very successful course, and you're going to be able to walk away from this understanding the hardest part of the entire sort of like product life cycle. And really sort of like by doing that, we're going to go through this process over and over again, how to discover, define, design, and deliver solutions. And I think that's everything I had for you guys. So the way I look at this is I actually want to review all of your self-study work because it'll help me understand how you think. It'll help me understand how to tailor the sessions that we do going forwards. And best of all, it means I can give you direct feedback one-to-one and say, look, this is where things are good, and here's where some things that need improvement. And if you improve these things, this is why that's a good idea to improve those things. So, you know, the self-study stuff is like, treat it as something where you put time and effort into it. And if you send it to me, I can make this course better. And at the same time, I can give you feedback and insights into how to improve your product thinking and your work as someone that kind of involves product. So I think that's everything here. And I'll kind of open the floor to questions. But like I said, it's like this was high level, focus on orientation, and kind of distilling a high level image from my mind into you guys' minds in terms of how we move forwards. So I can just hop back into Discord now, and I'll just, well, I'll have to stop streaming. I can leave it live for now, but let's do that. But cool. Any questions from anyone here? And questions can be anything from what do we need to do with this to can you explain a little bit more about this?
Yeah, I actually like the idea, the product market fit, but it's also the first time I'm actually hearing of it. So my question is like, how we supposed to, is it like a structure that we'll be able to know how to go about structuring our content for the product market fit on that NOM site you mentioned?
Cool. So, I mean, in terms of how you would structure it, I suppose I can put together like a very simple template. But what I'd say is, you know, it doesn't have to be complicated. And part of this is really getting you guys to think about what someone might need. So if I quickly share my screen again, I'll sort of like show you this. Let's go live. So what I might do in this instance is, like I said, you should all go to notion.com. And if you're not already using Notion, download it. It's free to use as a personal tool. It's a very, very good personal tool. I would highly recommend it. And when you've downloaded Notion, you can just create a page, and I might call it, let's say, one pager for fits. And then I might structure it like this. So I might be like, right, if I wanted someone to understand what I'm doing really quickly, I'll put an overview. This is what this document will contain. And then I might just have a heading for each of the 4 fits. So product market fit. This is what product. This is what product market fit is. And then I might just repeat that for each of the other headings. And the reason I might repeat that for each of the other headings is simply because I can then give very quick bullet point examples of what it is. And so maybe I'd type in here point, and at the end I'd have a simple example of company with this point. And maybe I'll actually do that for all of them. So something like that would work. And then you could say conclusion. You can use the 4 fits for ... And that probably would be maybe how I would structure it if I wanted to be really simple. one thing that's very common when people are writing something is to, or at least writing these kind of one pages, is to maybe you'd call it one page on the forfeits and you call it 1.0. And then you'd write everything out, you'd reread it, you'd realize it's crap, you duplicate it, and you call it 1.1. And then you just basically keep iterating on that until you're happy with it. And then you can sort of like delete the previous versions because they're not that useful for you anymore. But your idea is to make this clear and concise. And you'll know if it's clear and concise because you will understand it really well. And the part of the kind of like goal here is really to kind of like create clear thinking. Because if you can think clearly, and the reason I've chosen the forfeits is because you should understand the forfeits going forwards because it's a really simple, really good framework for understanding things. But if you can really think clearly on how that stuff works, well, then you can really make a strong difference with all of the work that you do going forwards because you will be able to align people. And that's the hardest part of product work, is being able to get people to see what's in your head and for you to see what's in other people's head and to make sure that you're all pointed in the same direction. And if you can do that, then you can do more than, I would say, 80% of the people in the world that say that they're product-focused people, because that's the hardest part. Leading people toward the same horizon and following you on your journey is not as easy as people would make it out to be. So that might be how I go about it and put it together. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks. Really clarifies the idea behind it. So how are we submitting to your email, or like how will we get submit to you, or is it on Discord?
Yeah, just drop it to me on Discord. I'm very happy to take a look. I'll just
Okay.
keep my eyes peeled and posted. And like I said, we can have like a real-time dialogue. So that's all good with me.
We have a
okay.
practice and feedback
Thank you.
channel within this category. So if you just check that
Nice.
out and drop it in there.
Yeah, if people drop it in there, I'm very
Okay,
happy
I
to kind of
see.
like look through that.
Okay. Thanks. I'll look when I'll drop it when I'm done.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Mhm. Thanks.
How about anyone else? Any other questions, thoughts, things they want to clarify?
Hi, Cassius.
Hello, Suleiman.
Yeah, so for this product, are we going to get a curriculum to see the topics we are going to be talking about?
So what I tend to do with these types of things is I tend to have an idea or a structure in mind. And then what I tend to do is based on the people in the forum and the work I see from the people is I might update the overall structure going forwards, because one thing that you can do in these scenarios versus an online course or typical sort of online learning is, because it's a group and it's dynamic and it's living and we're interacting with each other. When I realize that there's something important that I haven't discussed or described based on the work that I receive, it's easy for me to say, this is the most important thing to discuss and to put together for the next session. So I did a very similar thing for a community forum full of entrepreneurs in the US called South Park Commons. I did a similar course to this where I had an overall structure, and based on the work I received from the participants, I would then rejig the next lesson. So what I'd say is that my goal at the end of this really is for you guys to be able to walk away and hypothetically find an idea that you would want to work on or that someone else is working on, and then to move it through that entire process of kind of like going from discovery to definition to design to delivery. And if we can do that at the end of 6 weeks, that would be amazing. But if not, my other goal for this is to just give you guys an overall foundational view of how to work with product and how to think about product so that you can make good decisions going forwards, be it as a technical person, a designer, or anyone else going forwards, because product thinking is very valuable, even if you're kind of like just putting your foot through the door. So that's my idea on the curriculum more than anything else.
That makes sense. That's wonderful.
Cool. So last call for questions and thoughts. Otherwise, what I'll do is I will, or Tristan will drop the recording in. Where's a good place to drop the recording, Trist?
So they're going to be uploaded up into YouTube. So I will possibly put it in the forum notices within this product design forum category. Those
Sweet.
of you who are attending this, I presume, have already opted into the product channel, so I will just tag that role and you'll be able to see it there.
Nice. That sounds good to me. And in terms of, actually, yeah, Trist, can you just nudge me when you're going to do that? And I'll give you the deck as well and a link to the one page I've put together. And that will help you. Then we can kind of like have it all in one message.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I look forward to seeing and hearing more from you guys on the work that you put together. Otherwise, I will. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to call it here. So thank you all for your time. And we'll hopefully speak in the next few days.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for the engagement. See you soon.
Perfect. It's a pleasure. All right. Take care, guys.